Australians of Reddit, what is the scariest encounter you've had with one of the native animals? I had just come home after a long bicycle ride. I took my shoes off and just forgot to bring them inside afterwards. 2 days later I was about to go on another bicycle ride, so needed my shoes. I put my left one on with no problems, but felt something a little squishy when putting my foot into my right shoe. I immediately took my foot out to discover it to be covered in at least 100 baby spiders, and a larger redback spider came scuttling out of the shoe. Don't leave your shoes outside, or at the very least check them, unlike me. I was driving on a straight unsealed road through barren land and had not seen anything on the road or to either side for about half an hour when I had to decelerate heavily to avoid driving into a group of half a dozen emus who were startled and who scattered in all directions. While I was mowing, saw a snake. Thought it was a red-bellied black snake. Get them all the time. So I took a stick and hit the ground near it to scare it off. Thing arced up, hissed and charged at me. I took off. It was a tiger snake. Came home from work and went to step outside to enjoy the garden when I noticed an intense buzzing. I looked down and there's a spider wasp and a huntsman spider having a Godzilla, King of the Monsters showdown, wrestling all over the patio area. The spider wasp stung the huntsman into submission and dragged it over to a hole in the wall. I later learned that the spider wasp lays her eggs in the barely living body and uses it as an incubator. Nice. In another huntsman incident, the one I keep in my garage dropped into my lap from the sun visor in my car as I reversed out of my driveway. I screamed for a bit before scooping him up and popping him back in the garage. I warned him not to get in my car again. Anyone watching would have found a grown man lecturing a huge spider a bit weird. I do generally like them though, hence not killing it. I've also been chased by an emu while cycling a few times. They're deranged. Lived in the outback. Was just minding my own business walking past the local cinema and a 6-foot emu came running out from behind a tree and nearly knocked me down. Scared the absolute out of me. Follow up, emus were not supposed to be in the township. There was a fence to keep them out, so town services had to forcibly evict it. They achieved this by driving up close to it, throwing a noose around its neck, quickly winding up the windows and slowly escorting it out of town. Bad idea. They are surprisingly strong, and it kicked in the whole side of the vehicle in the process. Came home after 2 weeks away. My parents picked me up, unloaded my suitcase, loaded it up themselves, then left on holidays. That night, I was sleeping on my stomach, and a possum came in through the window and landed on the soles of my feet. I'm guessing he had pushed through the flat screen while I was away and had been sleeping in my room. All I knew is something big and hairy landed on me. I lashed out and he went flying across the room. I left pretty quick and slept on the couch. Another one didn't scare me, but the wife. I saw 2 or 3 baby huntsman spiders about the size of a pinhead outside my bedroom. I saw maybe a dozen more in my bedroom. Then I walked into my end site. Huntsmans have about 200 babies at a time, and the remaining 185 were all in there hanging out. The wife made me go out at 11 PM for bug spray and still didn't sleep in the bedroom for another 4 nights. Went into my shed, no lights, only to find out it was full of redbacks with webs in every corner. Now I'm not scared of spiders, but holy Christ, half a bloody dozen were crawling all over me. Lucky I had some friends that were more than happy to smack them off. About 5 years ago I was fully envenomated by a king brown while working on a remote mine site in the Pilbara, Washington. I had all sorts of side effects from the antivenin, including blindness. It took 2 years to fully recover. A leech attached itself to my eyeball while I was hiking in the rainforest. My friends wanted to piss on it or light a match over it, but neither solution seemed ideal. So I waited while it wiggled about, filled up with blood, and finally dropped off an hour later. The following week I went on a date with one of the guys I met on that hike, even though I still had a zombie eye from the leech bite 10 years on. Last year, he and I went back to the place where he first looked me in the eye with that leech wiggling about, and we were married in the rainforest with our friends standing by. My mother-in-law called me over to her house because she thought her cat had been bitten by a brown snake. She asked me to bring a shovel. I drove over and found the snake in the backyard. I whacked that thing as hard as I could 10 times with the flat side of the shovel. The snake reared up a couple times until it slumped into a heap, bleeding. I put the snake in a plastic bag and tied it shut. I placed it between my legs while wife drove to the vet to get the cat checked out. I brought the snake so the vet could identify if it was a brown snake. When we arrived, the vet had just completed surgery on a dog and laid the dog on the floor. They opened the bag and the snake slithered off the table onto the floor and started moving toward the dog. A nurse covered the snake with a box and got a hammer. She later smashed its head with the hammer. I seriously couldn't believe it was still alive after the beating I gave it. Now I know I should have hit it with the edge of the shovel, cutting its head. In bed, felt something scutter over my chest. Turned on the light. Saw nothing. Then as I went to turn the light off, saw a giant huntsman crawl under the mattress. I was so tired that I left it, but it still freaks me the out. Okay. School canoeing camp out on the Murray River, 6+ hours from civilization, taking a in a hole in the dark. Loud thumping behind me, getting closer and closer and closer. Kangaroos, just seeing what's up, best I ever had. Walking through long grass like a moron with friends. Accosted by a large brown snake, turns out I can run pretty fast. Dad clearing weeds out the back of my parents' house, accosted by a large brown snake, fastest I have ever seen Dad move. Neighbor knocks on our door. Tell us he just saw a large brown snake go into our yard. Dad goes to look, accosted by a large brown snake. Neighbor runs it over as he is backing out the driveway. At a friend's house, his dad starts getting excited, accosted by a large brown snake on the front lawn. Kills it with a shovel in some stubby shorts and thongs. Way too casual about it. Largest/thickest snake I've seen in person to this day. Old boy just chopped it into 3 bits with a tiny shovel. Basically, you don't have to look far for a poisonous snake. I'm not from Australia, but lived in Brisbane for a year while studying abroad. Was walking to the bars with a friend in the evening. Quite dark out even on suburb city streets, so I pulled out my smartphone camera light. Just as I do so, I pan up to rustling in a nearby tree, and there is a giant bat on a tree that turns around and spreads its wings like it's Batman. We ran out of there damn fast. After that, along with spider webs, I no longer walk on side walks into the suburbs, even during the day. My cat decided to bring a live baby snake into the house. Thanks Bailey. I used to live in the country on a 4,000-acre farm, so it wasn't unusual that if go out riding and find somewhere new. Anyway, this one time, I'd saddled up my horse, told my foster family the direction I planned to take, and I was off. It was a pretty pleasant ride in summer, but it actually wasn't too hot, which isn't common in Australia. There's usually only 2 seasons in Australia, freeze ya off or bloody oath it's hot, so finding the right balance at the right time is like winning the lottery. So there I was, plodding along on my horse, when I come to a bunch of eucalyptus trees. They are not uncommon, but I hate the smell, which is why they are always so memorable. Anyway, I start to feel like I'm being watched, but I shrug, thinking it's just a stray roo in the distance. I don't have the greatest eyesight, and at this point, I didn't have glasses, or maybe an echidna, because my horse was getting a little antsy. I do my best to calm her down, and we move on. The next few seconds felt like a lifetime. I felt something sharp in my back and added weight, and I obviously freaked out. What the hell had just happened? I try to look over my shoulder the best I can, and I'm greeted with the snarling, toothy snarl of a drop bear. I do my best to grab at it while trying to keep in the saddle, because at this point, my horse knew what was going on, and she was going mad like a bronco. She threw both me and the bear, and thankfully, the thud from hitting the ground was enough to send it speeding away and back into the trees. Safe to say, I rode back home as fast as I could, but I still have the claw marks to this day, exactly in the shape of a Southern Cross. Scariest day of my life. 3 dingoes rolled up on me and my sisters on Fraser Island. Dad chased them off with a big stick before they could do anything besides make all 3 of us ourselves being swooped by magpies and even plovers. They are very territorial and annoying, as when they swoop, they don't generally hit you, but get close enough for you to hear them swoop next to your head. Woke up in the middle of the night and walked half asleep into the kitchen for a drink. Turned the light on and am greeted by hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders, about the size of your pinky nail, on every surface of the kitchen. There were tiny webs like streamers cascading from the ceiling, and they were coming out of every crack and crevice like a horror movie. I shut the kitchen door behind me to try and stop them infesting the rest of the house, and sprayed the entire contents of the 4 cans of bug spray I had, both surface spray and flying insect spray. After the first can I had to keep exiting the room to breath, but I sprayed until I couldn't see anything moving anymore, and then contemplated going to buy more spray. I had to throw out every item of food that wasn't sealed and wash the entire kitchen contents, including the walls where hundreds of little black dots made up the mass grave of baby spider carcasses. I'm not afraid of spiders and it's common here to often find bugs inside. We have a lot of bugs and our houses aren't generally sealed up very well, but damn, that was the stuff of nightmares. Still makes my skin crawl thinking about it.